Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to do introductions here because we actually are recording this for people that are not able to be present today. We'll make this available, probably send it out by email, I believe. Justin Horvath, Shiawassee Economic Development Partnership. Thank you all for being here today. We are excited to be a supporter of this effort. Our board of directors has endorsed this proposal that you're going to learn more about today, and we are taking upon ourselves as the economic development organization serving Shiawassee County to be out and promote this, because I personally believe, and our board believes, that this is something that's going to go a long way in addressing our talent needs here in Shiawassee County, something that quite honestly has never been done before in this county. We've never had this type of millage to support this type of programming at a countywide level. So the vote is in August. You'll learn a little bit more about it here from Charmaine, but the vote is in August. So we are spending time now and until the election to try to get the word out on this opportunity. So this particular event today, we wanted to do a little lunch and learn to be able to give you the facts, and that's what you're going to hear from Charmaine. It'll be the facts on the proposal, and then certainly as a follow-up, if you need engagement at your places of business or other community organizations that you serve, I know certainly we would be happy to support that in any way. And then obviously, Charmaine, you are available to go on the road to talk to teams about this as well. So the goal here today, though, you will hear from Charmaine Fletcher of the Shiawassee Regional Education Service District about the facts of this proposal, and you'll be available for questions, and then be able to garner support for this. So I guess with that, Charmaine, I'll turn it over to you. But maybe before we do that, not everybody knows everybody in the room, and I think it's always good with any event that we do to introduce one another, because there might be opportunities for collaboration. You have a nice mix of different agencies and organizations represented today. So I'm going to start over here to my far right, Mike from C2AE.
Mike Jans from C2AE. We are a full service architectural engineering firm.
Boyd Martindale with Placemaster U and Business Idealism Group.
I'm Jamie Siemens. I'm from Shiawassee Health and Wellness, community mental health. We have vocational training for adults with developmental disabilities, so we were just interested in hearing.
I'm Becky Dalkey. I'm the Community Resource Manager at Memorial Healthcare.
I'm Jim Hathaway. I'm the Engineering Manager at Allied Motion Technology.
I'm Danielle Lars. I work for the Lineman Training of Michigan, the Laborers Union, and the Apprenticeship Department.
And Jody Rothel with SEDP.
I'm Charmaine Fletcher, and I'm Associate Superintendent and Career and Technical Education Director for Shiawassee County. So I support all of the RESD's CTE programs, which we're here to talk about today, but I also support all of the local district CTE programs. So that includes 7 of our 8 districts have their own CTE programs. So before I get started, in case you are not familiar with career technical education, back in my day, we called it vocational ed. And career tech ed is kind of is taking vocational ed to the next level. It is the same idea as far as hands-on learning during a high school student's school day, but there are some additional requirements from the state of Michigan for career tech ed. One of them being that they have to have work-based learning experience. They have to have some hands-on opportunities where they do interact with local businesses. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. And I did pass out a flyer to you that's kind of a snapshot of the information I'm sharing today, because I realize that you're also trying to eat and you have to go back to work. So relax, eat your lunch, and most of the notes are taken for you, but I'd be happy to entertain any questions you have at the end here. So first of all, I want to talk a little bit about the benefits of career and technical education in our schools. First of all, the graduation rate is significantly higher for students that are participating in career and technical education. Across the state of Michigan, the typical graduation rate for high school seniors is a little bit over 81%. With our CTE programs in Shiawassee County, it's 95%. And as I mentioned earlier, career tech ed is meant to be a hands-on learning experience. Certainly, we have to go through safety, we have to present theory, whatever the field is that the students are learning about. But once they have some learning on that, they need to have some application of it. And so it is a requirement of the program that they have both in the classroom, hands-on practice and learning, and some interactions with business and industry. Career Tech Ed does raise a student's earning potential. It is proven statistically that the students in high school that take Career Tech Ed versus those that do not take Career Tech Ed, the CTE students out-earn them. They are able to get higher wages when applying for entry-level positions because of the skills and experience that they bring to the job. In addition, Career Tech Ed deepens community ties. One of the requirements of Career Tech Ed is that every CTE program must have an advisory meeting in the fall about their program where they invite people from business and industry related to that program, and they share about the curriculum and the opportunities for the program, and they have to have another meeting in the spring. We are required to invite students and parents to also be part of that interaction. In addition, I had mentioned the opportunities for on-the-job training, and that included job shadow, where they simply observe, mentoring opportunities in the field, or even possibly internships. Little overview about career and technical education. First and foremost, these students are roughly high school, and all of us had ideas that probably changed from the time we were very small about what we want to do when we grow up to what would actually come to fruition. So Career Tech Ed is a safe way for students to try a field to find out if this is something they really want. And we do see some students, for example, in our health science program, they enroll in it, they're very excited, and then it turns out they're not really excited about dealing with blood or other bodily fluids, and they've made a change. And that's perfectly fine because Career Tech Ed is no cost to the student or the family. So it's a safe way for a student to try things out while getting high school credit. In addition, professional skills are something that are required for all Career Tech Ed programs. So all Career Tech Ed programs are required that students get experience with mock interviews, developing their resume, and again, interacting with employers in the field. And this is a life skill, as all of us know. It's really important that all of us be able to articulate our background and talk about ourselves and talk about our skill sets and how they align with a potential employer. In addition, Career Tech Ed is mandated to offer college credit earning opportunities for all students. So that may be in the form of direct credit. So for example, with our criminal justice program, it is taught by a Baker College instructor, and the students are earning direct college credit in addition to earning their high school credit, or it may be through articulated credit. So with some of our programs, like our health science program, we have agreements with local universities or colleges where our students, if they proceed through the program, can earn either credit directly related to health science at that college or university, or some general studies credit. So when they finish the program, and they choose to matriculate to that college or university, they'll already have some credit on the books there. And lastly, one of the requirements now under Perkins 5, and Perkins 5 is the federal legislation that funds all of Career Tech Ed across the United States. Under Perkins 5, students are required to have the opportunity to earn employer-recognized credentials. Come on in. Join the party. We have one seat right there.
Looks like it was meant for me.
It is meant for you. Hi, I'm gonna just join us. I'm gonna share a flyer so that you can enjoy your lunch. The notes are already taken. So employer recognized credentials, the idea being that they're stackable. So if a student is trying it out for a year and perhaps maybe that's not their cup of tea, they still walk away with something. So let me give the example of our electrical program at the RESD. Students that enroll in our electrical program the first year, all students have the opportunity to earn their OSHA 10 certification, which is something that is recognized across the board with many industries, especially in construction, but I also know healthcare recognizes the OSHA 10. And over the last 9 years, we have served over 1,100 students at the RESD alone in our career and technical education programs. So a little bit about the programs we offer. If you're looking at the flyer that's on the table, they're listed there as well. In the top in the maroon bar, you'll see the symbols for each program. But we currently have 7 state-approved CTE programs at the RESD: auto, criminal justice, culinary, electrical, Health Science Academy, Automation Technology, which is also known in the field as mechatronics, and Teaching Cadet. Some of these programs, as I mentioned, are dual enrolled, means the students are earning direct college credit and they're taught by a college instructor. So that includes our auto program and our criminal justice program and our culinary program. And some and some of our programs are affiliated with early college programs. If you're not familiar with early college is an opportunity for a student to attend high school for 5 years. And what they do in that 5th year is they're predominantly on a college campus earning college credit. And so typically after their 5th year of the program, they not only earn their high school diploma, but they often walk away with many college credits and possibly even an associate's degree. And so we have opportunities, they're not required, but there are opportunities in both our health science program and our teaching cadet program for students that want to be in the early college as well. As Justin mentioned at the start, the CTE millage is on the ballot for all residents in Shiawassee County or any resident outside of Shiawassee County who is associated with one of the 8 public school districts in Shiawassee County. We are requesting 1 mill on the ballot, and it is a 10-year request. To give you an idea of what it would cost the average taxpayer, we did some research on this, and the approximate median property value in Shiawassee County is about $122,000. If that is the family's property value, then the cost for the millage would be about $5.10 a month, which is equivalent to about a gourmet cup of coffee. Which might resonate well with people like Justin, who I know really enjoy their work.
I just take it black, no cream, no sugar.
CTE meets the needs of our community, as Justin mentioned a little bit, and I have talked about the fact that work-based learning is a requirement of career and technical education, the industry recognized credentials, the employability skills, or what some of us call those soft skills with our students. I had mentioned that it gives students an opportunity to try a field before they commit to it. I'm aware of many students that go off to college and think that they want to do something and then realize very late into their tenure that this is actually not what I want to do the rest of my life. And now they've cost their family a great deal of money and or they have a great deal of debt to pay off. But as I mentioned earlier, career and tech ed is completely free for students and their families. And I say completely free. Not only is the program free for the students, but we supply all the textbooks that are necessary. And every student that enrolls in a Shiawassee RSD CT program gets to use an internet device. We provide them with a laptop to use while they're in the program as well. Any tools that they need for the program, so with our Health Science Academy, the students do clinicals in healthcare environments, so they're required to wear scrubs. We provide them with the scrubs for that. For our electrical program, 2nd year, we need to make sure that all students, unlike me, have closed-toed shoes on for their own protection. We provide them with the work boots to make sure that they're protected on that. Any uniforms that they need for our auto students, we provide them with the work shirts. They're not getting their shirt that they wore to school dirty, etc. The reason that this is on the ballot is because currently we have maxed out our resources at the Shiawassee RSD. You may or may not be familiar with the fact that districts receive a foundation allowance per student that's enrolled in the school district. And over time, generally speaking, that foundation is increased modestly each year by the state of Michigan. However, ISDs have not, we don't get a foundation allowance because we don't have students that are enrolled directly with us. They're enrolled with the districts. And so our revenue from the state of Michigan has not increased over 20 years. So in order for us to staff or to give our staff increases, my team, every single one of my team members relies either fully or partially on grants, including myself, to fund our salaries. And we have maxed out that potential. And if the grants fluctuate, we had a grant, for example, that was $150,000 in the past that we applied for. They reduced it to $50,000. That means we have to cut a staff member. And that means then we have to cut services. So it makes the service that we provide the local districts unstable, in addition to the fact that these programs are very costly to run. The reason the RSD runs the electrical program versus a local district is the expense in the supplies, the conduit, the conduit bending, the tools that the students use, the uniforms, all of that is very expensive. And that's on top of the salary that we pay the. Imagine, Career Tech Ed is taught by industry leaders, so it has to be somebody who has a license in that area. So we need a certified master electrician to teach our electrical program. It's not very tempting when you pay them a teacher's salary when they can earn, a master electrician salary and that. So it is very, very hard, even in this labor environment, for us to recruit staff with the revenue that we currently have. So at this point in time, we cannot increase any programs regardless of what our local demand is from employers or from our families, because we're tapped out in order to grow. Information about surrounding counties. So over 70% of the counties in the state of Michigan do have a CTE millage, which funds their CTE programs. Shiawassee is one of the few counties that does not. Around us, Clinton County has a CTE millage that's equivalent to about $2.2 million in revenue. Gratiot Isabella, a little over $3 million. Saginaw, $5.2 million. Genesee County, $10.3 million. And Ingham, $12.6 million. The concern that we have in Shiawassee County is what I would call border bleed. So if we have families that live around the perimeter of Shiawassee County and we don't have a CTE millage, which means we can't grow our programs and our offerings are stagnant right now, but local other counties around our border do have a CTE millage and they can continue to grow their programming through school of choice. They have the option to choose to leave Shiawassee County to go to school. And I regret to inform you, but if somebody leaves Shiawassee County to go to school, very likely we'll have a strong fondness for the high school that we graduated from, and so we tend to matriculate to the area in which we went to school. So it bleeds our population, if you will. With a millage, it would give us the opportunity to reverse that we can continue to be innovative with our programming, and that with those border families, we can encourage them in borders as opposed to having them outside of borders. As I've shared, we're tied for last as far as CTE revenue in the state of Michigan, in that we have no revenue from the state of Michigan for Career Tech Ed. Overall, as far as millage, Shiawassee County ranks 51st out of 56, which means we're in the bottom 5 as far as revenue to support education in Shiawassee County. Of the 40 ISDs that do have a CTE millage, they levy about 1.4 mils. Shiawassee ISD is requesting 1 mil. And our county is rather large. We cover almost 531 square miles. Without a millage, that means that transportation is not something that we can assist the districts with or the families. And where it currently stands with our programming is that families have to self-transport their students, which means that if a family does not have a way to transport their students to our program, they can't participate. The other issue that has arisen out of this is the fact that without a centralized location for our programming, we take space where anyone will give us space for free. So right now we're in 4 different locations across the county, which means if students want to carpool, but one student is going to criminal justice, that's currently held at Owasso, but another student is going to electrical, they can't carpool because electrical's in Byron, and we're housing the CRJ at Owasso. So that really even limits the family's ability to network together. And I don't need to point out to anybody that gas is not here. So this is a big burden on our families to have to carry that responsibility. So I want to share a little bit about success rates with our students. I mentioned the graduation rate. 95% of our high school students that take CTE graduate high school on time. With our auto service, our auto program, they all can sit for the ASE, which is the Automotive Service Excellence Test, which is industry recognized for auto, and we had 83% of our kids successfully pass that. This past year, 100% of our electrical students earned their OSHA 10 certification in their first year. For our culinary students, they have the opportunity to earn food safety and sanitation. For anybody who's familiar with the culinary field, it is required by law that when your kitchen is open, you must have somebody in the kitchen that has their food safety and sanitation, which means a student that goes through our program and earns that automatically gets hired by that person meets that requirement for that local. For health science, The students earn a myriad of credentials in their first year, including staff cup lead, basic life support, and CPR. And if students continue the second year into the program, they have the opportunity to earn their certified nursing certification. So if the millage were to be passed by the voters on August 2nd, what would the RSD do? First of all, we would centralize our programming. And by this, I do not mean that we would build a center. So the millage at the rate that we are asking would generate about $2 million. That is not enough to build a career center, and it's not necessary. What we're looking for that revenue for is to stabilize our programming and to provide the cost of our staff. For school districts, 85% of our revenue is spent on just staffing the school district. 15% goes towards the actual buildings, the lighting, the heating, maintenance, those kinds of things. So at this point, we're looking for one central location that would be convenient along the I-69 corridor so that it would be accessible to all students. So not only do we have the issue of traveling to multiple locations currently for all of that, but also the fact that my staff is spread very thin. As we try to support the programs, we have them in 4 different locations. So if I'm to visit the programs in a day, I literally have to travel all over the county. So, needing me to travel is not a great use of our revenue. But also our students are traveling. So if a student has to travel all the way across the county for a program, that's keeping them out of the rest of their high school classes. So that means they're missing their opportunity for math class, their social studies class. Often, if too much of the student's time is taken with traveling, then they're taking online courses, which I can tell you as a former educator are not as exciting as being in the classroom with computers. So the first thing we would do is look for an existing facility that's student-friendly, that we could refurnish to meet our needs. The second thing we would do is provide assistance with transportation. And that could look a couple of different ways. What some career tech ed counties do is they have the districts transport their students and then they reimburse them for all or part of the cost of that. Another opportunity would, like we do with our special ed students at Shiawassee RESD, we actually have our own bus drivers and our own buses, and we go across the county. We could do perhaps a couple of pickup points across the county so that the students could get to the pickup point, then we can transport them to centralized location. The third thing that we'd like to do is reduce the tuition burden for the districts. Right now, the districts pay $2,500 per student per year to be in our program. For some of our smaller districts, that's a big chunk of change to spend on tuition. For our larger districts like Owasso and Corunna, you can imagine that they have a larger volume because of the population that attend, and that can add up over time. To give you an example for Owasso, if the millage were to pass this year alone, based on the enrollment for fall, it would save them over $40,000. That's a significant amount that they could put back into their own.
What has been the response of the 8 individual districts on this proposal?
So this has been something I actually said on Superintendent Council. This has been something that the Superintendent Council has been discussing for the last couple of years. And the RESD would not have proceeded with putting this on the ballot unless all 8 superintendents were on board with this. They all see the value of us offering programming that supports what they do, but doesn't compete with what they do. We're a service agency. We have no desire to compete with any of the programming that the local districts have. I've been with the RESD, it'll be 4 years in October, and we have started 4 programs the time that 4 CTE programs the time that I've been here. Each and every time before I start the application to the state, I have a discussion with Superintendent Council. Is this something you think your students would be interested in? Is this something that you see the value in? Because we need buy-in from everybody to make sure that it's meeting the district needs, the students' needs, and our local employers. And the other thing, as I mentioned before, because we're tapped out on our revenue to grow, there are some needs out there that I've heard over and over in our community. One of them is cybersecurity. I'm sure all of you are very familiar with the phishing expeditions that go on through our email. And if anybody opens the wrong email or the wrong link, it unleashes a nightmare on your organization. So cybersecurity is a huge concern for us. So we definitely love to look into starting a program like that. An ROTC program, I think, would greatly benefit Shiawassee County. There is a waiting list to get on that. They only have so many ROTC programs available for CT in the state of Michigan, but I can't send us up on the waiting list because often the cost just to get the equipment for the program is about $50,000. we don't have the $50,000 to invest in that, so I can't get on the waiting list at this point. Welding is a significant need in Shiawassee County. We do currently have a dual enrollment welding program, but that program requires the students have to have a 2.5 to get into the program. Not all students that are interested in welding have a 2.5. So that's a barrier to them. That's probably unnecessary. In addition to that, because it's a dual enrollment program, the students don't just take welding, but they're required to take classes like composition. And I can assure you that all welders don't need to be excellent, fluent writers. Certainly all of us need to be able to communicate effectively, but it's a big turnoff sometimes when you have a discussion with a student. You have to have a 2.5, and you're going to have to take a semester-long college level composition class. They're out with that. So we'd love to offer this as a high school level CTE program. And then the last one that I wanted to mention is a potential opportunity for us is small engines. So since I have been with the RESD, we have offered a dual enrollment diesel class and a CTE auto class. And both have been through Baker College, and Baker requires at least 12 students to sign up for a program to run it. It has happened every year that we have about a half a dozen kids that sign up for auto, and we have about a half a dozen kids that sign up for diesel, and we can't run either program. And when we try to convince the kids, you have your diesel kids that want to be in diesel and your auto kids that want to be in auto, and we end up canceling. I'd like to look into something to kind of be a feeder program to those programs, which would be a small engine program. All kids have to work on engines, whether they're going to be an auto and diesel, and that might be a great feeder program to kind of get them up and started and build enough of a group so that we can run those other programs once they get that under their belt. Yes.
Quick question. Is there any thought, or are they looking at involving computers also, so that, yeah, cross training?
So yes, at Baker.
Because there's a lot of stuff.
Yes, and we contracted with Baker College for those two programs, and the ASE test that our students pass in auto, that 83%, it was all on the electrical components of an engine. So yeah, that's a huge drive right now. So they're very well aligned. Baker is required to have an advisory program for both their diesel and their auto program, and I sat in on that advisory. Huge push, and as we all know, there's a huge push for gas to even look more into electric vehicles. They definitely.
There's a lot of stuff that we're involved with that comes in that. Well,
Coming. So one of the things that you can do if you want more information, one is I've shared kind of a brief flyer that encompasses a quick summary of my presentation today. There's also a website if you'd like more information. It's on the screen, but it's www.cte4forkids.org. So you can go on there. There's some frequently asked questions that we've responded to on there. Our flyer is out there. The election is on August 2nd. So regardless of your feelings, I would encourage you as Americans to vote. That's our right. We should all exercise that. And you should encourage your friends and neighbors to vote. Before I stop for some Q&A from all of you, I do want to take a moment to go through my brag book. And I've limited myself to 3 students today. So the first one I want to talk about is Kylie Lewis. So Kylie Lewis was a culinary student in the Shiawassee RESD program. But Kylie started her culinary CT experience at Owasso High School. Owasso has their own culinary program. Kylie took every class she could that was offered by Owasso High School in their CTE program. And because the RESD CTE program is a direct credit class with Mott Community College, taught by a chef who works for Mott Community College, she then enrolled in our program. As is required for all CTE programs, competition is part of the program. And Kylie competed locally during COVID, mind you, at a regional contest. She did this all via Zoom from her own kitchen. She won the regional contest. She then proceeded to the national contest. She competed again via Zoom. She won the national contest. So Kylie earned herself a free ride at Mott Community College to earn her associate's degree in culinary. She also earned herself a free ride to the Culinary Institute. In addition to that, I believe she got a $20,000 grant so she could purchase commercial ready for her studies. So she is a tremendous shared success story between Owasso and the RSD. The next student I want to talk about is one of our Health Science Academy students. So Allie was enrolled in our Health Science Academy program, and she was an early college student. With COVID, we pivoted suddenly from an EMT program where we focused on that credential to a CNA program. By this time, Allie is a fifth-year senior, which means she's mainly off of her high school campus, and she's taking college classes and she's at Baker towards her nursing degree. She went to apply to nursing school. Kylie heard that we pivoted to CNA, and she reached out to me and she said, I'm still a high school student. Can I enroll in the health science class, and can I get my CNA certification? I said, yes, you're still a high school student. You can enroll in this. The reason that she wanted to enroll in it is because she's a nursing student, and getting into nursing school is extremely competitive. And they use a rubric, and the more points you get, the higher, better chances you get of getting into nursing school. So Kylie said, CNA gives me a lot of points, so I want to earn my CNA. Not only did she earn her CNA, she got a perfect score on the exam. She was hired after she passed the exam by Pleasant View here in Shiawassee County, and she is one of their weekend warriors. So she works 40 hours at Pleasant View, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. In that 40 hours that she works, she fully funds her nursing degree. She pays all of her tuition right out of pocket. She got herself an apartment. She's completely financially independent, and she bought herself a car. So a great example of how she leveraged CTE to launch her career. And I can tell you, my niece is a nurse. Well, she's studying to be a nurse. She's a nursing student. My niece did not have this opportunity in CTE. My niece did not get enough points despite being a good student and didn't make it into nursing school. She then had to get hired someplace and then slowly work her way up. And she is now trying to pay for that while she's trying to work. And it's been a hardship for her. So I can see the tremendous value that it is for one of our students. And I promise you this is my
I
last
apologize.
one.
I didn't realize you had a slide for each of them.
We have Troy, yes. So my very last one that I wanted to brag about is Troy. Troy just graduated, and he was in our first and second year electrical program. Our electrical program, the students work towards a national certification. The national certification actually takes 4 years for someone to earn. And our goal is that the students are well on their way, about halfway when they finish the program with us, which means that they only have 2 years left to go in the program. And as I mentioned, the program has to be taught by a certified electrician who also has to be a Shiawassee small business owner. And he asked me permission to interview, not only conduct interviews for our students, but to interview our students to hire in his business. And I said, oh yes, this is the whole point. We want our CTE students to get hired locally here at Shiawassee County. So he interviewed Troy. He offered Troy a job. Troy turned him down because he said, my dad has already offered me a job, and my dad and I are going to become partners when I become an electrician. So by the time Troy graduated high school, he had 2 high-quality job offers. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to all of you. What questions do you have for me?
I know you mentioned, I know Mott Community College is a really great program, and there's, Delta as well, up in the Saginaw region. And I apologize my ignorance on this, is there a college that you would partner with that's inside of the county as well for these programs, or would you still be partnering with Mott?
All of the above. So we look for any partners. We actually have 3 relationships. For CTE, we have 2 relationships. One is with Baker College. So Baker College runs our auto program. They also run our criminal justice program. And then Mott runs our culinary program. So we contract with them for the instructor on that. But we still, even though we contract with them, we still supply our students with all the things they need for the program. So we pay for all of their books for the affiliated program. For our culinary program, the students must have a chef's uniform. We buy 2 uniforms for every student. They have to have a commercial level knife set, which can be quite expensive. We buy the knife set for the students.
Yep.
And if the students stay in the program, we give them the knife set. So if they finish both years of our culinary program for us and they commit, we don't ask for it, it's verbally, that say, I want to stay in the culinary field, we give them their next knife set upon graduation. So that's one less thing that they have to have. But we're always looking for additional partners in the programs. Our other programs are currently taught by either contracted staff or by RESD staff. So that our health science instructor is an RESD employee. But at this point in time, we're not able to hire any additional staff because we don't have any staff. We're just putting any further.
How is this offered to the students? What grade?
So we offer it in grades 11 and grade 12. So when they're in 10th grade, we have what we call a career pathway expo, which we partnered with Shiawassee Economic Development to offer. It was open to any 10th grader in Shiawassee County. And that's one thing that I want to mention. Not only are our CT programs open to our public schools, they're open to students that are homeschool students and private school students. They're also welcome to join our program. So when we had the expo, we sent letters out to local private schools as well, and we invited them to come in. We had booths for all of our different CTE programs. And then we had our exemplary students sit in a panel. So part of the time, the students listened to a panel where they heard about the different programs, why the students took the programs, what they thought they were getting out of the program. And then in advance, they filled out an interest survey for us of what types of fields they're interested in. And then we had like a little schedule for them where they stopped and they got to interact with the instructors for each program. And they prioritized 2, and then we did a little free time for about 15 minutes where they could visit the different booths. So we do that. My team goes out to any high school. We offer our service to go out during the day and the evenings to present to their students and to their parents about the program. All the enrollment is done on our website, so it's available for anybody to see in the county if they want to go on and apply. For our programs, we do our actual enrollment for our programs in March and April. We lock that down by the end of May so that we can kind of figure out what our enrollment is and if we have a
I got a couple.
Yes.
I'll say for everybody else. So you mentioned a couple of ways that folks here can get involved, but we've talked a little in some other communities, some employers have taken a little maybe more aggressive role in terms of promoting this to their workers in the community. What are some examples, or what could some of these folks do going back to their place of business to promote it with their team?
And I can give a Shiawassee example. This morning I got an email from Great Lakes. Great Lakes says they do safety training for all their employees once a month. They said they're doing the safety training on Monday. They asked if I would come at the start of the safety training. That's fine. So I might be a strong coffee drinker too. So I will go and give them the same information that they gave you and provide them with the same flyer and answer their. So that's one example. If you're able to pull your employees together to educate them on that opportunity. Another is just to be aware that August 2nd, we do have a primary election, and to make sure that your employees have the opportunity that time during that day that they get out. So that's really important. You can encourage them. You can make copies of the flyer that I provided to you if you wanted to share that with your employees and share some of the information that I had. And if they have questions, you can refer them to our website, which is www.e4kids.org, so they can get their own information. They can reach out to Justin here at SEDP if they had questions. Any of those options. Does that help answer your question, Justin?
Yeah, I see we have a question up here from Anna.
We do. What is the process for deciding which new CTE programs to onboard, assuming a millage is approved?
So the first thing that we do is, we have conversations. I sit on the board of Shiawassee Economic Development, so that's helpful. So there's strong interaction between Justin and myself and my team. So that's one way that we get information as far as what the needs are, as far as hiring. I know he's very close tabs with his team on where there are job opportunities. The goal of CTE is to focus on the high demand, which I get my information from Justin, and high wage fields, because we want students to graduate and enter the workforce in a way that they can support themselves and support them. We want them to have a good standard of living. So that's one way. I sit on Superintendent Council. We meet bi-weekly, and we also talk about where the kids' interests are. One of the softwares that we use in Shiawassee County for all students, grades 7 through 12, is called Zello. And Zello is used to kind of get a student's interests They have like a little aptitude survey and an interest survey, and then it kind of directs the kids, this might be the type of careers, it gives them like a top 10 list of what they might be interested in. And they have little videos on there that spark their interest. With that, it's required by law that all schools provide career information to students. The Zello is the tool that we use in Shiawassee County, and the counselors in each of the local districts help enroll the kids in Zello, give them time for those questionnaires, and then annually they should be updating it, because what I like as a 7th grader, probably not what I'm gonna like as a 10th grader. And so they keep tabs on that. So I meet with the counselors on a monthly basis. They give me feedback on these seem to be the hot careers with kids, these seem to be the interest with kids. No district can offer every possible opportunity. It's just not feasible. But we look for what I would call low incidence programs, where we have a smattering of interests across the districts. Then it makes sense for the RESD to look at, hey, electrical is a great example. 8 kids is not enough to run a program for one district, but now I have 37 kids across Shiawassee County enrolled in our program. But between the 8 districts, we do have enough interest. So between superintendent council feedback, the counselor meeting that I attend monthly, and the counselor feedback, and what I get from SEDP, that definitely gives us an idea. And then we put feelers out. If we were to run this program, at our expo, we can, survey the kids and see where the interest is to make sure the kids have to have the interest in the enrollment. So, and the other part is we have to have somebody who is licensed in industry to teach that. They have to be an expert. I'm a math teacher, not teacher. So we also have to have that partnership with business and industry of whether there's somebody that's retiring that has an interest in teaching, that has that skill set, or somebody that's willing to share part of the day. So our electrical instructor, he is a small business owner, he has a partner, and they have worked it out. They're like, we can't hire people. We cannot find talent. So they've made the investment, and that he gives up half his day from his business, his partner takes over, so he can teach in the morning in order to literally build that workforce. And we do need that partnership. I can tell you with our welding program right now that's dual enrollment, it's not a CTE program with Baker College. They are out there, they're working with Justin, beating the pavement, trying to find a local employer. We know we need welders, but we need a welding instructor to lead the program. So it definitely has to be a partnership.
So with where I work, we partner with not local districts around here, both Grand Blanc, Oakland County schools. We bring pre-apprenticeships into our facility during the summer because our people are out working on the roads and everywhere else right now. So what is the possibility of combining some future programs?
Very good.
Say to us, because we're already here.
Correct. And you're partnering with career tech ed centers. So you're providing with you're partnering with counties that have villages, that have a work-based learning coordinator that can reach out to you and start to build those things. And that's one of the issues with our electrical program. We were getting through 2 years of the academics for the program, but those students have to have on-site apprenticeship hours. And that's what the instructor was saying. He's like, I would rather we slow down and maybe get through 18 months versus 24 months of the curriculum. And I embed some work-based learning as my nutrition with the kids, because otherwise it's great when they go for an interview and I know what conduit is and I know this and that. Yes, but if you're not theory how to bend it, that's not good. I don't want a surgeon that in theory knows how to do surgery. I want to do surgery. So with a millage, we would have the staff to be able to do that kind of reach out and that kind of partnership. And we have to, because these are minors, we do have to go to the job sites and we do have to make sure that it's safe and age appropriate for a minor. We would have the staff to partner to do that so that we can check in the job sites and also get feedback, because sometimes minors aren't at the same level as an adult is and give them that coaching.
We do have already set up with several contractors across the state to take these children and, even like during summers and have all the galleries. But, obviously with this being right down the street, it's very interesting,
Yeah.
So, but I notice it's not, construction work, which is one of the highest in demand right now, is not on here other than the electrical, so.
Correct. And right now, I don't have the space. I mean, literally, I beg for classroom space in all the different schools. I mean, 2 of our programs are in an elementary. And when, we had to get state approved to run a CNA program to be a nurse training facility. And literally the Laura inspector from the state of Michigan, I had to coax her out of the car because she pulled up to an elementary. And she said, she pulled down her window, she goes, I'm not authorizing an elementary school to be a CNA program. And I'm like, no, this is not kindergarten. She's like, they're kindergarten. I'm like, no. I have adult high school kids in there. They're just voting as class. But those are some of the hurdles that we're running into right now because I'm big and borrowing space. So it doesn't necessarily look like what people would think and it doesn't make it convenient.
So are you trying to get all of these programs centered in one location right now?
Yes.
Somewhere along the, convenient to I-69 so that no matter where the student lives in the county, it would be a reasonable commute. And they have to, this is an elective. They still have to get back. They still have to have 4 years of math. They still have to have their social studies and their ELA and all of that. So, I want them to have their 2 hours a day in CTE, but I don't want to spend 4 hours a day out of the classroom because they're commuting.
What's your current, and I apologize if I missed this, what's the current perception of the millage, looking at, so Saginaw in 2018 passed theirs, and there's about a 60 to 40 split in terms of the vote. Do you have an idea of what the perception is currently right now within the community?
I'm gonna let Justin answer that because Justin has been talking to the community. Maybe he can share a little bit.
And I think it's very positive. We all know it's a challenge to pass any millage. But the reality is the nature of this community, this is a blue collar county. Historically been a farming and factory type county. And when you start saying things like bringing back vocational training, skilled trades, a lot of people nod their head, yes, we need that. Where I really think we're going to win this, because I think this is going to pass. I think it's going to pass fairly decently, is the retiree population. Retirees are always the hardest block of voters to get, particularly with education stuff, because they say, I don't have any kids anymore. We got a lot of retirees from General Motors and the railroad and factories that get this. And I'll be honest, I heard this when Owasso was trying to pass their school bond, which did eventually pass, thankfully. You talk to some of these folks, they don't think we need a new school. They don't think we need a new pool, a new auditorium. But you start talking about vocational training, they're like, yes, I want to support that. Because people intrinsically know this is something that is needed and is of value. And I believe, particularly given the price tag, which is very reasonable, I think we're going to get good support. I think the retirees are going to.
And I would say that as a former superintendent myself in Michigan, the reason that we had seen the dwindling of the VOCAD programs is the extreme cost of running them. And it also depends on your enrollment from year to year. So when your enrollment fluctuates, it wreaks havoc on a small district. So if you have 10 kids that enroll per class in, let's say, an auto program, you've got to look at the other classes. Well, that might mean that you have 40 kids now in math because you only took 10 in this classroom. It creates issues in making schedule and with staffing, not to mention you have to have a vehicle for them to work on. You have to make sure you have proper ventilation. You've got to maintain all of that. And the costs are very high. And all CT programs, depending on your enrollment, get some state funding to purchase supplies. We can't use that on salaries. And I'll go back to my statistic. 85% of our cost is in staffing our programs. That's great. They're helping me with the 15%. It doesn't help me to pay for a teacher.
I think the other thing too, along with that, I think people realize not only that needed, but there are opportunities for our grandkids to work, if they go through this program, to work locally. Certainly we want to encourage the high job growth, high wage, but this idea of creating this pathway to employment so our kids don't have to leave, I think is very appealing to both. And that actually then, in my opinion, and what I'm going to push for on behalf of SEDP is a call to our employers. And I think employers, once again, Charmaine cannot advocate. She can just provide you facts. I can advocate. I think employers need to be at the table, but I think employers need to support this. It'd be nice if they endorsed it, but also demonstrate basically, hey, we believe in this millage. If you, the voters, pass this, this will help train our kids, and we're going to hire these kids. And we're going to provide our children and our grandchildren a future readiness. So I'm hoping employers will come out and support this and encourage their workers to do that because, this is our future talent pipeline right here.
Maria Montessori started Montessori schools said that that which the hand does, the mind remembers.
And it's true. I mean, I can tell you as a math teacher, I get a lot of head bobbing when I've done math lessons, like, yeah, we get this. And then I would give them time to start their homework in class, because what would happen is they go to do it and they're like, hey, you did that totally. I'm just not sure what I'm doing. And Career Tech Ed is all about that. You know, in theory, it sounded great, but they actually need to do it. And frankly, the kids that sign up for CTE are kids that want to have those hands-on opportunities. They deserve those things. And like I said, some of them, a small fraction, do it and go, oops, this is not for me. Great. They find it out in high school, rather than you investing in them, you training them, you onboarding them, and then they exit on you. And then you got to start all over with a group. I know what that is.
Welding. It's, when you're gonna get hired, all you can do is welding. Trigonometry. Then they have to think about doing well in that, so that they want to do better. Union, bringing people in and talking about real.
Well, and I think you bring up a good point that was kind of an aha moment when we had the Career Pathway Expo for our 10th graders. In the fall, is some kids were getting super excited about these programs, kids that aren't normally super excited about school. And then as we started to share with them, well, you need we do have to require at least a 2.0 GPA. They have to be successful and stable in school before they can commute and have this opportunity. They're like, oh, had I known I had to have this GPA, I actually would have tried the last couple of years. And we're like, oh, how tragic. And that's where we'd love to have the funding, start doing CEDAR programs at the middle school level and get to those 8th graders and say, if you want the chance to do this in 11th grade, you got to apply yourself in 9th grade and 10th grade so that you can have this opportunity. When you don't prove yourself on paper, we're not sure that you're ready for this opportunity. So it can be a tremendous incentive.
Just added that with my experience, all the years over at Baker, working with students coming in and working with the Auto Diesel Institute, welding programs, many of those students were going to those career paths. The educational portion of it, the book part was not what they were into. And to stress that point that, yes, you need, math for Ohm's law and all these other kind of things, and to be able to measure, to be able to make a square, those kind of things, the earlier on that they get that information, definitely. And get the parents to buy into that too, because oftentimes the parents will, oh, they just want a wrench. Okay, but there's more to it than just that, So again, this is what you're saying and the value of all of this is.
One last question for me, Charmaine. So apart from the millage, you've got a lot of quality employers representing different sectors here. How can they partner now?
So our advisory committees are a wonderful opportunity. And, my husband and I are a small business owner ourselves, and I have said it to him as well, to get involved in the community and get involved in an advisory board, because you do not want to wait to try to snag these kids when they graduate high school. In this job market, it's too late. You need to start building that relationship with them while they're juniors in high schools and say, when you come work for us, and get them all excited. And kids are very literal. And so they start to build that relationship with you. They aren't going to think about anything else. So that is your chance. I mean, you invest your time in them, but then they're going to invest their time in you. And kids are very relationship. So that's a wonderful opportunity. The other one would be is to listen to the calls from Justin on different needs and opportunities, because we partner with him. I did reach out to him last year when we were looking for an electrical instructor, and through that reach out and through that networking, we were able to get an instructor. So, and it may be if you have something that you have a huge need for, skilled labor, maybe we need to work out a partnership for a program where you could lend us. So, for example, for our electrical program, that class runs from 7:30 in the morning to 9:15. There is an opportunity for that individual to work a little bit with us and partner and start to build that labor force for you, and then go to the workforce and work for you. So I think that we all need to be a little bit flexible as we work with each other too in this labor market of how can we blur the lines between the schools and business.
Another question. I have friend who's got a special need son who, autism, yeah, fairly high functioning, but got some challenges. Not here locally, but he got into cybersecurity and he's literally almost a survivor. So there may be a lot of programs that you have, and some kids, you know, maybe in traditional school, it's hard for them to be very good at something. But when they start doing things, they learn really quickly. You know, cybersecurity doesn't. It's built with fun. Those abilities start to come out.
You're absolutely right. And one of the areas that CTE focuses on is called special populations. So special populations includes non-traditional students. So for example, in criminal justice, that would be a female. She would be non-traditional. Construction, that would be a female. In health science, that would be a male. So we focus on making sure those students feel welcome and supported in the programs. And another non-traditional student would be a student that has an IEP, which is a student that qualified for special ed services, which a student on the spectrum would. When a student meets the special populations qualification, we can then provide a CTE paraprofessional in the classroom to assist that student to make them feel more comfortable. With electrical, I purposely chose a female CTE para because the instructor was male. And we have one female in our first year, one female in our second, but that's better than we did in our first year. We had 0 females in our program. You know, we wanted someone who looked like them per se to be in the classroom. And again, you know, with our current funding, the RHD can support 6 paraprofessionals. We have 32 CTE programs in our 6 paraprofessionals. We need more revenue to hire them. The other issue that I run in is right now, most of the fast food places pay more than our CT paras. I had one of our CT paras, and she's been with us 3 years. She texted me this summer and she said, my 16-year-old just got a job washing dishes. And I'm like, hey, that's great. She goes, he's making more per hour than I am. That's embarrassing for me. You know, what does that say to her is her value? And she is wonderful with our kids. There's nothing I can do. She's 100% grant funded. If I want to increase the pay scale for our paras, I'll go from 6 to 5. Because that money's going to come from something. So we're really at a sticking point as far as revenue.
There's CTE program for social work and direct care work, because we're struggling with that too.
So not specifically social work, but we have a teaching cadet program right now. There is not a federal CTE program for social work per se. But there is a federal program and a state program for what they call education general. So that for us, that could be social workers, counselors, teachers, administrators, all of that. So we just started it on a grant. Try to agree on that word, grant. On a grant, it's sort of a feeder program. We did that this spring, and then we got enough kids interested in the program that we actually started the program, and we contracted with an individual who's a retired teacher, and we're literally paying for the tuition based on the enrollment program. And literally, the more she gets, the more I can pay her, the less I can pay her.
Yeah, I don't have a vast or predictable need for students from a program like this, but we used to take a lot of co-ops from high schools, which I thought was a really positive program, and I liked it, and I've benefited from it myself. So will this yield some students that are candidates for things like that, or do we really have to align very tightly with one of your programs?
So both. So I will say Owasso and Corona being larger districts, with economies of scale, they both do run co-op programs. The co-op program has to be aligned with what the student's career interests are. So I'm going to go back to that Zello, you mentioning that software. So the state requires that we have some way of gauging students' interests and career aspirations. And then if they're interested in a co-op, the co-op has to align with that. So for example, if I'm interested in robotics, you can't place me in a co-op where I'm making food. And that's a disconnect there. Then you can't get high school credit for it. But if I'm interested in robotics or mechatronics, you can get a co-op for me in that field. So that's one avenue with Corona or Owasso. But with CTE, you know, there's a range of different, even with our electrical program, there's a range of different fields. And with the mechatronics program that we're just starting out for the fall, I do think there would be some alignment with that, because with mechatronics, it's anything to do with electrical components, mechanical components, hydraulics, or robotics. So if your industry supports any of those, there's no alignment with that.
Is there any thought to prepping students that are not usually in your program that can be set up so that the way that they do their regular class, let's say they're going to get their diploma and go on to college, there may be some ways that have that augment those students back.
And we do, and I don't know if you mentioned from the slide that I did about the early college program. So the teaching cadet program, which most teachers, but paraprofessionals are not required to go to college. But there's an opportunity that you can enroll in the early college program and be taking college courses at the same time they're doing our CTE program, because you're right. CTE isn't just for skilled laborers. CTE can be for variety. Health science is a great example of that. Someone could enroll in our program and they want to be a CNA, and that's their aspiration. That's awesome. Or someone could enroll in our CNA because they want to be a nursing student, like Allie does, or they want to be a doctor. It gives them a great example, gives them a chance to try out the field at a basic level, but also to earn a good wage that might help pay for their college education. So I think that is one of the misnomers, probably the people, is that career tech ed is for those kids. It's for all kids. And same thing like mechatronics, I just mentioned earlier, or automation technology. It might be for somebody that works specifically with one machine, or that might be somebody who wants to go into engineering. You know, you've got to understand how things work. I was a pre-engineer. You've got to understand how things work in order to go into engineering. And so that would be a great CTE class for them to take if they want to pursue engineering, to see, is this really what I want to do, or is this not what I want?
And the other thing too is that this would set them up nicely for this Department of Labor apprenticeship programs. They already have some background. Those employers are looking to bring them on. They already see that the interest is there, so therefore it makes that transition a lot easier too. So future advancement.
In the health ed class, do they do exploration of other health career options?
Yes, they do. So the entire first year of our health science class is an exploration of all the different careers in health science, and the students are required to do clinical rotations, and we require them to try all different facets. Really, with any, going back to Justin's question of how can employers partner with you, we reach out to pharmacies. We have kids job shadow there. We reached out to veterinary clinics. We reached out to the hospital. We reach out to the assisted living facilities. Anything, dietitists, anything that had to do with healthcare. Anybody that says yes, we'll take them. We then work out a rotation where you'll do 2 days here and 2 days here and 2 days here, because oftentimes, you know, it's not unusual for a student to say to us, well, I don't want to work with older people. And then we're like, it's a 2-day rotation, 2 days and everything. And then you also come back, oh my gosh, it was so appreciative and it was so nice. And it was, you know, you don't know it. It's you don't know you don't like it until you try it. So we do require in their first year, they have to try all the different programs.
If they think about healthcare, there's people that want to go into healthcare, really focused on it, get a chance to go into the hospital and job shadow. When somebody's drawing blood, some people will pass out. Somebody else is drawing blood, somebody else is having blood drawn. Yeah, so you need to find those things out early.
Yes.
Before you
Invest a ton of money.
Yeah.
And to be honest, same thing happens with educators. You know, there's people in theory that love it and think it's going to be great, but education is quite challenging. And we've, you know, had experiences where somebody goes up to the student teaching, and the whole classroom management thing, they want to, you know, help themselves out for others. That's a terrible time to find out, you know, second semester, your junior year, that this is not the career path. With teaching cadet, you know, the first month, we give them the ground rules, we give them training, and then they actually start to get placement. We require placements at the elementary level, middle school level, and freshman year of high school. We don't want them with their peers that are juniors and seniors. But that's a great time for them to figure out, and we had a teacher that student say, you know what, I thought this is what I want to do. This is not, I'm gonna pursue criminal justice instead. Well, that's great, but you found it out now rather than after years of college.
This might not have any relevance, but I know that one of the things I've been hearing a lot from the other workforce development RMIE Michigan Works is their concerns about the Wagner-Pfizer Act that's going through that would stand to change how that piece. Do you know if there's anything in there that would impact CTE programs in general?
I'm gonna, since you work with Michigan Works, Chris, I'm gonna defer that to you.
He's like, I'm glad you brought that up. Let me take a second to cover this.
There is a little bit, I mean, the main impact is going. Sorry, tech services along those lines. Some of the work that we do through the Wagner-Pfizer Act does trickle down to the CTE departments and work those lines, but how much money that is, I personally don't know. The biggest impact will be on services for people. If it goes through, there could be some office closures, primarily rural areas.
And I could give you examples of how we currently partner with Michigan Works with Area D. WIOA is one of our programs. Two of my team members that work with me support the WIOA program that is funded entirely through Michigan Works. And that program, we seek students that either have an IEP, so they qualify for special ed services, or a 504, which means they have some sort of impairment that impacts them academically. And if they have either of those, and there's some other requirements, my team screens them, they get a referral from the school or a parent. One student actually referred themselves. If they qualify for services, then what my team does is finds a job for them. If they don't have transportation, literally, that they can walk to, or we try to figure something out that way. And we get them employed through the grant. They become an RESD employee, the student does, and we pay them a competitive wage to work for free for a local employer. So if the student says, I love animals and I work with a veterinary clinic, we'll work with a local veterinary clinic. We'll place that student there. No harm, no foul of the veterinary clinic, because we pay their wages. And let's say that student needs constructive feedback. We regularly check in with them and say, how is so-and-so doing? They're not punctual. They need to make sure they use a little bit of soap and water before they come to employment. We have those coaching conversations with them. And our goal is that when they finish that placement, that employer hires them, either they're employable. So it's no risk to the employer per se. And we do all the job coaching. So that's a wonderful opportunity for our kids through WIOA. But also they sponsored with SEDP a program we ran this spring, which is called What's Next for Class of 2022. This came out of the fact that a year ago, the superintendents were walking around shaking hands on graduation day and saying, hey, congratulations, you're graduating today. What are you going to do? And they went, oh. You don't know what you're going to do, Dr. Brown? Very scary. Yeah. So we were like, this is very bad. And so we worked with Justin, we worked with Michigan Works to do a What's Next fair in April, and we invited seniors to come to it. We had various employers that had booths there that talked about different opportunities, but Michigan Works had a booth there that said, do you have a resume? Well, we can help you with your resume. Have you ever done mock interviewing? We can help you interview, so you're going to do this. What are you interested in pursuing? Hey, we have funding for that. You don't have to be out of pocket. We can get you funding for that. Oh, your car broke down and that's going to keep you from getting to work, but you have a potential for a great job there. We can possibly help you get your car repaired so that you work. So there's a lot of partnerships there. So I can say I'm a little bit scared because, again, we leverage through them to support our students.
Kids get hired out of that?
Yes, we had a couple of our students, our health science students, first year students that were hired on the spot, that program.
At my level, that would be youth work program, what we consider youth. Removed from school and all of that. So yeah, so we're big heavy push on that. Yeah, but some of those supportive programs would be heard through the Wagner Fund. So that's why I sent out emails to for people that were on my list to put in a strong opposition. So we had a very, very good response at the state level for that. And Now, the deadline for the letters was yesterday, so now we'll see what we have from you. It will have an immediate effect on some things and a trickle effect on others.
Charmaine, if anyone has any questions for you.
They can email me, Fletcher, FLETCHER@sresd.org. You can reach out to me that way. You can reach out to Justin, and I'm sure Justin knows how to get a hold of me. He can forward your questions on to me, and I'd be happy, if you want me to come do a presentation to your organization, I would be.
Great. Any other questions before we wrap? Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Charmaine, for sharing.
Thanks for your time today.
Can we get a